Well, hello there.
Hello. You and me.
You and me, babes. Well, welcome to the very first time that I do Ascension with A Course in Miracles in Patreon. And it is absolutely fun and exciting to start something new. And I know, obviously, this is a learning curve, so we will all learn together. So I'm super, super excited about this. Welcome, Miss Cat.
Hello.
So happy to see you.
The cat.
Yes.
Hi. Hi.
So
Hello.
much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. Well, as I was saying, welcome to the very first of the Ascension with A Course in Miracles in Patreon. And when I had the idea to do this, it was really truly an inspired idea, because I recognize that after years, so many years of having my old center, created such a great sense of community that till this day, 15 years later, some of my closest friends, we all met at the center. And at the center, other friendships got created that evolved from there. So the sense of community is very important to me. And oh, here comes another good friend. So that sense of community is crucial. And of course, I've taught at other centers around the Atlanta area. Welcome, Yuri. So good to have you here.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Yes, it is a lot of fun. And having been involved in communities who come together to not only grow together, to learn together, but to deepen the commitment to what we stand for together. And right now, we are in an amazing, auspicious time where the world, there is a bifurcation taking place. There is a splitting of consciousness. Now, consciousness is not splitting, but inside consciousness, there appears to be a split. And the split is very simple. Those who are choosing the path of liberation, freedom, love, expansion, those who are choosing to remain in the path of finding safety in others taking care of them, which requires external authority. It is the path of fear. It is the path of suffering, and it is the path of karma. Karma requires repetition so that we learn the lessons through seeing the same thing over and over and over again. This is why so many have been conditioned to do the same thing, but yet expect different results. Well, you can't get different results of doing the same thing, but being unconscious, meaning blocked to the truth of who we are, we don't know any different. And some people say, I used to believe this, ignorance is bliss, until I began to realize that ignorance, there's no bliss in ignorance. Ignorance is a decision at a soul level, to stay in the lower realms of consciousness. That's what this chart is. When we decide, let me put a little mark right here. I'll put this little cute little person here. So that's like my little marker. When we remain at this level, we are just getting by. That is the consciousness that is saying, I want to continue to learn my lessons the hard way. The way of above the line, when we move to a place that requires courage, once we enter the realm of courage, clearly you guys are in that realm and above. When we enter the realm of courage, we know that liberation of the ego that's it. That's the goal. Well, it's the first goal, liberation of the ego. Then as you move further into the journey and you begin to ascend into the realm of reason, you realize everything the ego has made, even though it seemed logical at the time, is actually devoid of real reason. So when we begin to move into the path, the expansion of consciousness that takes us to reason, we realize that the only reasonable thing to do is to want to get to know the mind of God. Then we move out of transcending ego and we move that. And when I say move, the mind shifts from wanting to let go of the ego, transcend it in the trance. We begin to raise our consciousness, our awareness begins to expand into the only place that it can, because there's nowhere else to go but to know the mind of God. Once we made that commitment to want to know the mind of God, there's no choice. You're on that path and that's it. When we make the commitment to repeat and learn through doing the same thing, but expecting a different result, we have made a commitment to continue to learn with the ego. The world is splitting into those two dimensions. There's nowhere else to go except for there's a middle layer. The middle layer is everybody who has one foot in the world that we see, the world of separation, the world of external authorities, the world of suffering, the world of the ego, and one foot in the world of God, the world of truth, of oneness, compassion, collaboration. Those who are standing basically on that, straddling the fence, they are the ones who are on the path to awakening. That is the mass awakening that humanity is in the middle of. And of course, everybody has to do their own work and become honest about where am I on that journey. Now it's thousands of steps, millions, trillions of steps to move out of that straddling the line. And each one of us is wherever we are on the journey. Some are more grounded in the world of truth, of God, and still dabble a little bit thinking the world is real. Some are grounded more in the world of the ego, and that's the reality, the bills, the children, the spouses, the job, the money, they don't want to be alone, the illness, what's the government doing? When's my Social Security check coming in? When we are grounded more solidly in that world, then of course, there's going to be lessons. Those irritations are the invitations. But we know we have one foot in God's world. And in God's world, we know that we can choose to see things differently. And that is the place where awakening becomes more solidified, where we have to make conscious choices. So wherever we are, more grounded in the world that we see, more grounded in the unseen world, it doesn't matter, because it is all happening in the mind of God, as Course in Miracles teaches us. And what that means is that we are absolutely safe in terms of our soul. Our soul, our spirit is grounded in the truth of who we are. It's not going anywhere. If anything, it knows that playing the role of being human is just that, a role that it is being played, where we come by choice to have experiences, and by choice, free will. This is the greatest gift that we've been given. We have the free will to stay in the lower dimensions and move into the world that is going to become, I'm going to say, watch out, pretty soon, this world is going to get really chaotic. Many people are going to stay in that world, meaning they are going to follow the rules. They're going to be told what to do, and they will do it, and they will be angry with anybody who doesn't do what they're told to do. We've already seen examples of that. We've seen through the jabs and people participating in this, pandemic, plandemic, scandemic, whatever you want to call it, where they did what they were told to do. And they're very proud of it. Look at I took it. I took one for the team. And then they get mad with everybody else who hasn't done that. Those people are going to become more entrenched in that world. And it is going to be impossible to get them out. It's not going to be possible because they have made a choice that is where they're headed. They're headed into deeper solidity. For some of them, it might mean that they will move into the process of death for whatever reason, the jabs or the side effects or something else gets activated in them. They might just transition from old age, or they might transition from a car accident. Don't know. But they will not wake up until after they transition. When we have the death experience, we're back into the light. Then the scales fall off of our eyes. We remember the truth of who we are, and we say, "Ooh, wasn't that a fun ride? We're going to come back again." But we all come back at the level of consciousness that we leave at. So think about your ego as a suitcase that we pack with beliefs that when we transition, that suitcase stays here on planet Earth. And it is a density that the soul picks up to continue their journey. Now, the process of ascension, the process of awakening, is the process of emptying that suitcase. Many of us can empty the suitcase completely, transcend the ego completely while we are in physical form. And then we remember the truth of who we are. I'm a soul playing a game. And then we begin to play the game in the world, but not of it. Now our mind, there's no need to judge anybody because we know everybody's playing the role that they're supposed to be playing for all of us to have the experience that we're having. Can you imagine going to the movies and it's a love story, and there is, the main character is, let's say it's the main actress is I can't think of any current names. I see some faces in my mind, but I can't even think. Jennifer Aniston, let's say. So Jennifer Aniston is the main character. And she knows she's going to play that role. She's got her script. And the script is beautiful. She's going to meet this lovely man and they're going to fall in love. It's going to be in Paris, and it's going to be on a beautiful fall day. And it's going to be, crisp, cool air. And they are going to walk down the street and bump into each other and get to know each other and boom, fall in love. Well, that's what the script is for Jennifer Aniston. She's going to play that role, and she gets to the movie set. And when she gets to the movie set, there's no director, there's no grips holding the lights, there's no Brad Pitt to play the role. There's not even a set designed for Paris. How fun would it be for her to play the role of somebody falling in love if she doesn't have the characters, the supporting cast, those who create the set, who make up the scenery, who make it look like she's in Paris, even though we know a lot of these scenes are filmed in studios or they use green screen. So they've got background, so they don't even have to travel anywhere anymore and make it look like they're there. Well, that is not a fun way to experience playing a role. That's why souls create characters. We need the person that we're going to fall in love with, then we need the person that we're going to get divorced from, and we need the person that we're going to fall in love with after that one. We need the government to make it seem like, oh, it's real, I'm paying taxes. We need the boss so that we can go, oh, this is who is going to give me a promotion. We need the friends, we need the children. The soul peoples its life experience with characters, all of them playing a role. So whether it's at a movie set or it's in our life, it's the same thing. This is why we say art imitates life, life imitates art, as within, so without, as above, so below. Everything is a microcosm of everything else. We live in a holographic universe. We are really truly one God who expresses itself in infinite number of souls, playing a billion characters. And those characters have specific parts to play to give us the experience of a full life, a planet Earth life, or a life in a different galaxy, a life as an extraterrestrial, a life as a snail, a life as rocks. Everything is scripted out like a movie. So we are playing roles. Waking up means that you understand you are the one writing the script for your own personal movie. Once you realize that, then you move into the director's role, and then you begin to direct your life, your movie, as a romantic comedy instead of a nightmare. While we are asleep, our life experience is truly a nightmare. Other people have power. And it can begin as early as in the womb. Somebody who is born to a mother who is in total stress and in distress, that movie starts off as a horror film. Now, we have seen some movies that start pretty dark and then they get lighter. Well, that's what we can do. The allowing the movie to get lighter happens only when you open up your consciousness to God's mind. God, what would you have me do? When we go to the expanded part of ourselves and say, you know what, I'm entitled to more. I want more ideas because mine don't work anymore. I keep doing the same thing, getting the same results. I keep attracting the same person. They have a different face, a different name, but it's like the same thing. Or I get a new person. It's a different situation, but I keep acting like the old person that I was. Either way, it's a repetition. It's an ongoing doing the same thing, expecting different results. The only way to get a new result is by making a decision to rewrite your script, to come into the realm of director. To move into the realm of director, you cannot see other people as real and having power over you. You must begin to direct the cast in your movie. And this is clearly, got a squeaky chair, easier said than done. It is. It's really easy for me to sit here and tell you this, but I've got 20 years under my belt of doing this work. So I know the steps to do what needs to be done. And it's what I'm sure most of you know, if not all of you know. However, we still have to do the practice. That is where there's a big difference. Those who will do the practice because they want a different result become uber committed to this journey. Will do whatever it takes to attain liberation. And in my humble opinion, there is no better teaching that really explains how to understand the source of all suffering, the veil that has us forget that we are powerful souls, the suitcase that gets filled with beliefs that weigh us down, that create all of our suffering, which is nothing more than the ego. The ego is the veil. The ego is the suitcase. It's all of those beliefs that are not true. There is no better teaching to really undo that. And the reason is because it's the only teaching about the ego and how to undo the ego that was written by, it's channeled by Jesus. So given to us by the highest possible consciousness. An ego cannot write a book about undoing itself. The ego, most of the ego books that are out there, if not all the ego books, are about how to move out of victimization, how to make more money. It's all about how to operate in the world and make it better, how to avoid doing the things that we didn't like, but do the things that other people are doing that are making them successful. Oh, they got to be a millionaire. Let me find the steps from them. All ego books, all ego teachings are a recycling of the same old thing. But Course in Miracles Jesus gave us something that's never been before. And I have not found anything like it, not only in its simplicity, but also in the truth that it shares with incredible compassion and gentleness as we move through this journey of undoing our ego. So today, I am so thrilled that you wanted to be part of this community, and I know it's going to grow. I'm going to do quite a bit of promoting it now. Now that I know that there is an audience, and I am going to build this community because I want to play with people who really want to, I'm going to call it, are serious about understanding the way the ego works. The only reason we have problems in the world is because we have egos. The only way to change the world and create the heaven on earth that we desire as we bifurcate is to operate with a commitment to God. God, what would you have me do? When we make that commitment to open up our mind to something that's never been before, we are going to be on an adventure. We have to be courageous. We have to step through fears. We've got to accept, because we've learned to trust God, always wants something better for us than we want for ourselves. And we're going to do that work together. We're going to be courageous. And there are some things about Patreon that I'm still learning. Recently discovered that there's actually another platform that might even be better. So I'm going to be exploring that. And if I make a change, I'll make it pretty soon. So we will maybe have a few more conversations in Patreon and then move. But I've got to make sure that that makes sense. Otherwise, we just stay here and build a community here. Patreon's been around for a very long time, and many people have communities on Patreon with thousands and thousands of followers. And so I know that it works, but if there's something better, I'm going to check it out as well. So today, let's start off like we normally start off, and share with me, how has the Course in Miracles impacted you since the last time that we connected a week ago? Have you seen any miracles in your lives because you're applying this? And if you are, just go ahead and unmute yourself and share. And we've got a small community. So if nobody unmutes themselves like right now, I'll just dive right in to what I was inspired to share today. And I do know that when I opened myself up to teach A Course in Miracles, this was like 12 years ago, in 2010, I believe it was, I knew that every single time I share A Course in Miracles with an audience, as long as there's one, at least one or more, I feel the presence of the Creator using me to bring out things that I cannot get by myself when I'm reading it. It just flows, because where two or more are gathered, there is the presence of God expressing love. So it's really just as much of a gift to me as it is, I hope, to you, receiving the information the way it comes through me. So I'm super excited. All right, so I don't see anybody that has unmuted. So let's go right to, today we're going to look at lesson 161. Lesson 161 is titled, Give Me Your Blessing, Holy Son of God. And, you know, as we become more mature students of the Course in Miracles, where we deepen our understanding of what is being said, and we know that there's only one of us here. So, and we're expanding our consciousness to God. How can we have a lesson that begins like this? Give me your blessing. So I'm assuming there is something other than me. I'm no longer in oneness, Holy Son of God. So I'm not going to God now, I'm going to the Son. So how can that be? Well, this is because when we are in the middle, one foot in the world, one foot with God, we have to work with what is in the world to help us move out of the world. So we are operating in duality. We're operating as if it appears that there are others who are part of our journey. And we're opening ourselves up to God's word. And sometimes God is going to be giving us guidance through the Holy Spirit to connect with others for the purpose of our healing. So when we see a title like that, we've got to get really clear. Yes, there is oneness. That's what somebody more advanced would know. There is oneness, but I am using the world. I'm in the world and using what is here to help me transcend the world. When we get clear that we're using everything in the world to help us transcend it, now everything becomes a lesson God would have us learn. Everything becomes a teacher. Every irritation becomes a very specific invitation to see something that is going to help us take another step on that path. And I can assure you, everybody who is not completely transcended, like Jesus walking on in the world but not of it, like Buddha, totally, completely self-realized, unless you are at that level, and I'm not, we are in the middle. We are somewhere on that bridge moving through the stages of awakening. And this is why it's so important. Don't compare yourself to anybody else, but be honest with yourself about where you are. Because one of the biggest traps for spiritual people is that we cultivate a spiritualized ego. And in thinking that we know everything, our ego keeps us stuck in righteousness, and then we can't hear what's going to move us into liberation. And we have to let go of being right and moving into an unknown space where we begin to be pulled, if you will, guided out of the maze that the ego has created. So understanding what this is all about, when you look at these words, really understand what they mean, requires that you begin to consider yourself a master student, in mastery of what the deeper parts of the Course in Miracles are all about. All right, so the lesson begins this way. Today, we practice differently and take a stand against our anger, that our fears may disappear and offer room to love. Absolutely. We are changing up so much of the spiritual journey. In the beginning, it is about doing the inner work. And then later on, we just want to get happy. We just want to get to God. We just want to do the love and light stuff and get to kumbaya. But we are not willing to go inside of ourselves and get honest about what is truly happening. And what is happening is that we have to take an active stand against our anger. And we are right now in a world that is activating the opportunity for anger to come to the surface. As the world gets crazier, as we see things not happening the way we want them, the students that are the students of truth, who are going to go the deepest and the furthest in their liberation, must take a deliberate stand against their anger. That means we can't be bypassing, oh, I'm love and light, I don't have anger anymore. I've been there, done that. It's part of the journey where we get all spiritual in our head. We start teaching, we start coaching, we start, our friends start coming to us and they're asking us, and we think, oh yeah, I'm handing out advice. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm there. And then little by little, the ego begins to tell us that, by ignoring our anger, we're somehow transcending it. That's not so. The only way to undo the ego is to face it head on in the places where it does its work. And it does its work in anger and in fear. That means we've got to get comfortable dropping inside of us. This is an inner journey. You take that elevator from your head and you go down to your lower chakras. That's what this chart here is all about. When we can begin to enter into these lower chakras, we make a decision. This is how we're doing things differently. We stay here, we stay in the higher realms of consciousness, and we then begin to scan our chakras. Where am I holding this anger? That anger keeps us in fear. Fear doesn't let us transcend. All right, so here we go. So we're taking a stand against anger, so our fears can be transmuted. This is total and complete 180 to move us from fear to love. And we don't move to love right away, as it says here. We begin to make room for love little by little. We are unpacking the suitcase of fear. Take one fear out, more love comes in. Take two fears out, more love comes in. So it is a very gradual process that requires deliberate consciousness. Then it goes on to say, so here is salvation in the simple words in which we practice with today's idea. You cannot save yourself, which I have come to understand. When we use the word salvation, it means spare yourself, free yourself, liberate yourself. You cannot save yourself from your suffering if you don't understand the importance that we're going to give, we're going to request that our brothers and sisters give us their blessings. Give me your blessing, Holy Son of God. And it is not that we're going to walk up to the people that we have an issue with and ask them for their blessing. It's that we're going to connect with the oneness that is the Christ consciousness in all beings. We activate ours, we activate theirs through conscious awareness of the oneness that we are, because it's that oneness that is the keeper of the love that we are. And see, I've never said those words before, and it makes perfect sense. Now it makes perfect sense. That's why I love sharing this information, because new ways of looking at things just flow through me. All right, so here is salvation in the simple words. Here is the answer to temptation, which can never fail to welcome in the Christ where fear and anger had prevailed before. The minute that we begin to move closer to God, the ego is going to tempt us into thinking we already know this, going to tempt us into thinking that this is basic. I've already done this before. I've been at it for 40 years. I know the drill. This is where the temptation of the ego for people who become spiritualized, whose ego gets all spiritualized, or religion, the religious ego, or it doesn't matter, the atheist ego, where you know it all. This is where the temptation comes in. This is why it says, here is the answer to temptation, which can never fail to welcome in the Christ. The minute that we say, give me your blessing, Holy Son of God, we know that we are moving out of our ego mind and we are entering into the realm where we're taking a stand against our old belief system. We are saying, I'm staying right up here, but I'm not going to tolerate the anger of my lower consciousness. I'm not going to operate in the realm of the density of my indoctrination. I'm not going to operate with what I already know. I'm not going to keep doing the same old thing, expecting a different result. So then it goes on to say in paragraph 1, sentence number 4, here is atonement made complete. The world passed safely by and heaven now restored. Here is the answer of the voice for God. When we say atonement becomes complete, atonement, if you break the word down, is at one-ment. Here is where we recognize our oneness, mine and yours, mine and the person who hurt me, yours and the person who betrayed you. When we enter into the space of realizing that we are all holy beings, all of us are souls who came from before this incarnation, made a decision to incarnate and play roles for each other, play roles with each other. So that movie, that Jennifer Aniston that's going to fall in love, she needs somebody to agree to have that experience with her. Now, we can say, and it's true in the world, in the 3D world, oh, that happened randomly. What a fabulous coincidence that she met this love of her life in Paris. You can say that. And that lets you live life as if everything is random and made up by something outside of you. Or you move down the path of becoming the director of your life. This is when you know you create your own reality, but you can't just talk it, you got to walk it. And if you create your own reality, You've got to go to the place where you are clear about the reality you want to create. But you can't create a new reality with clarity until you empty out the suitcase of the old beliefs that gave you the old reality, that is the ego that lived its life the old way. So as we move through this process, go deeper into the teachings of A Course in Miracles, check in. How committed are you to admit to yourself that so much of what you have believed about yourself and others has been incorrect? As the Course calls it, it's misinformation, it's misperception. It's been information given to you by others when you were a child, not old enough or mature enough to go, I don't like this. When somebody raised us and told us, well, you know what, when you grow up, you're gonna have to work hard for your money. If we would have been conscious, we would have said, I don't think so. I'm gonna play for my money. And besides, I create my own reality. So I'm gonna just draw to me the money that I want. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a game. As a matter of fact, I'm not even gonna work. I'm just gonna have people gift it to me. Can you imagine if that is what we said as a child? We would all be operating in gift economies where nobody'd have to work. Not that there's anything wrong with working, but we would do what we do for the fun of it. And we might trade it, we might share it. But because the mind is filled with misinformation, we have to unpack that from the suitcase that is called our mind. And the mind that holds all of that information stores all of that in the brain through neurological pathways that get formed. So as we move deeper into this journey, we have to make the commitment to unpack the suitcase. That means unpack the brain. What are the beliefs in my brain? Well, you'll know what your brain believes because it's what activates those neurological pathways, is what activates your emotional body. It's what sends you into emotional reactions. What brings you pleasure, what brings you pain, based on the way the body has been used by the ego. We think it is real, so it is storing all of that information. This is when we do emotional work. It feels painful, gut-wrenching pain, because it is stored in the body. It's cellular memory. And emotions is energy that's not in motion. So we got to put that energy into motion, and we begin to release it from the physical vessel through the changing of the mind. And people who talk the talk but don't walk the walk have the new information in their brain. They've created new neurological pathways of truth, beliefs of truth, but haven't unpacked the suitcase. So they get righteous about what they know and still react to egoic things, still need to be right about things because they haven't made space in the suitcase for what God wants for us, which is going to be new. It cannot have been before. Otherwise, if we had the new before, the new way of being with one another, the loving way of being with, we would already be on a loving planet. We wouldn't have to undo the old. So we have to make room in that suitcase. This is telling us right here, here's the answer for the voice of God. Right here in this statement, give me your blessing, Holy Son, Holy Daughter of God. We need others. We need their blessing. But again, you don't go to them to get the blessing. That's a bonus if you can do that. If you have that relationship. My mom and dad died before I entered my spiritual journey. So I got my blessings from them while they were already transitioned. I had to connect soul to soul where I could find the Christ consciousness that was the oneness between them and I, so that I could release myself from the anger that I had towards my parents. I had to do some of that work with my former spouse while we were no longer married, while we were in separate houses and hadn't spoken for years. I had to do some of that work without him, but I had to ask for his forgiveness. I had to ask for his blessing, because I had to, in my mind, shift my neurological pathways from the anger that I had towards the softening through the forgiveness, I had to allow my mind to receive the blessing, because my idea that he did something to me had me in anger, blaming him. My mind had to be shifted. He was a character in my movie, scripted to give me the opportunity to see how anger worked in my mind. And when I began to see that in shifting my mind, he played his role perfectly. He needed to help me see the way my mind held on to anger in righteousness, even though at the time I was already a spiritual teacher, teaching people how, coaching, teaching workshops, how to work through things like this. I could teach another, and we always can teach others before we actually live it. It's just the way it goes. It's part of the training, it's part of the program. But I saw, I'm saying something, but I'm feeling something different. I'm talking it, but I'm not walking it. So I had to take the elevator from my head to my lower chakras, feel the discomfort, be with the anger. Where is this anger coming from? What is activating the anger? I didn't need to go too far into childhood and do a lot of digging. The answers came pretty easily for me because I already had said yes to whatever it takes to liberate me. So the ideas began to come. It were all beliefs that we're supposed to be, happily ever after. Beliefs that this is the role of a husband. This is the role of a wife. Why didn't you do your role? You began to show me that you were this kind of person, then you turned into this one. I married Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then I had to look at me. Where am I, Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde? Where is that in me? And through honesty, I began to see, yes, I too changed. I showed him this side of me. Then when things began to get activated, I went into protection. He met a very strong person, and then he met somebody who was feeling victimized. Well, that's a very different person, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So he was helping me find where I was projecting that, and I needed him to show that to me, because everyone is a mirror for us. So this is the blessing that I got. Very simple. Give me your blessing, Holy Son, Daughter of God. I had to go look for what stopped me from being at one with him. That is the atonement that I received through the unpacking of what actually happened. This is really deep stuff, but to get to this kind of information, you must no longer lie to yourself that you are separate from other people, that they're randomly in your life. You must be honest. They're playing a role for you so that you can see, are you going to continue to play the role you've been playing? Or do you want to shift and lift into a higher frequency role? Do you want to be a person who keeps getting the same relationships, or do you want to be somebody who wants something new? If you want something new, you can't get that new relationship with the old mind that created the old relationships. You must renew your mind. Understand how powerful you are. Come into the place that you know you don't need anything or anyone, because you are whole and complete. That is when the process of liberation begins. Because when you don't need something from somebody else, you will stop being clingy. You will stop being manipulative. Because when we get that person, then we want to, if they're not doing what we want them to do, part of what I did with my husband, then I began to protect myself. If they start taking things that you think you can't live without, then you start selling yourself short. And you begin to manipulate, you begin to do things that are crazy, because the ego is crazy. So let me go into paragraph number 2. Paragraph number 2 says, complete abstraction is a natural condition of the mind. Abstraction means that it's expressive, there's no rigidity in it. It is absolutely like a child. It's impersonal. It doesn't have its ideas of the way things should be. It's very abstract. It can go any way. So every child is born with a mind that can make can receive any beliefs that it wants. Now, I did say earlier, because we got to understand how these roles get played, that when we unpack our suitcase, you unpack it while you're alive, then you become transcendent. While you're alive, you're enlightened, you're free. But most people go to their death with a suitcase full of beliefs, righteous beliefs, angers, whatever. So when we are born, we pick up those beliefs and we basically become, we kind of start off. So the mind is already somewhat programmed. But through the process of understanding mirroring, you can very early on begin to let go of those beliefs. But because we don't have the maturity, most of us don't, and until we get older in our lives and get tired of doing the same thing, expecting different results. But we do start with a mind, a brain that is totally plastic. It's pliable. There's nothing there. But as we have experiences, it activates our old memories of anger, of fear. That's what we take with us: anger, fear, guilt, shame. And then those things get reactivated. But the mind itself is pretty pliable. If we have a conscious parent, they can help us work through that so we can clean that up early. If we don't, those things become activated inside of us, and then we have the beliefs that solidify. So we have to understand all of those things as we move into the deeper parts of mastery. So complete abstraction is the natural condition of the mind, but part of it is now unnatural because those old things, karmic things, got activated, and then we picked up even new things. We picked up new ideas about how to be in the world. We saw what our mom did. I saw how my mom treated my dad. So I thought that's how all women treat their husbands. Well, that's what got me in trouble because my mom was an unconscious mother and she only knew what she knew. And I needed to have changed my beliefs before I was in that relationship, but I scripted a partner to help me see the beliefs that I needed to release. So he was the Holy Son of God who came to bring me blessings. So it does not look on everything as one. That is the mind that's been conditioned and is now unnatural, thinks that there are all separate people here. My separate husband, my separate, the separate person over there, the separate president of the country, the separate doctor, the separate friend, the separate child. It does not look on everything as one, the mind again. It sees instead but fragments of the whole, for only thus could it invent the partial world that we see. The purpose of all seeing is to show you what you wish to see. All hearing but brings to your mind the sounds it wants to hear. So when we incarnated, or let me go before that. Before we incarnated, we knew we would have a body. It would have 5 senses, and these senses would let me see, hear, touch, feel, smell, take in the world that I could see as separate, because when you incarnate, you have to do what an actor does when they play a role. You got to forget that you are Jennifer Aniston, the actress. You've got to be Lucy, the character. So we forget, oh, I am one with all that is. I am an aspect of God. We become the character. I had to become Laina. And to feel and hear and taste and sense what Laina wanted to experience in this incarnation. That's how powerful we are. That's how we've always been creating our reality. Now we're waking up to do it consciously. Because the old way, you didn't know you had that much power. And then other characters that you put in your movie who are taking your power make you feel bad about yourself. So you begin to take their power. If it's a child, you spank them, or if you're the boss, you fire them. If you're the partner, you cheat on them, or whatever it might be. And then all those things happen and you're reacting, reenacting. Reacting is you're playing the same role over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result. So we have to realize that what you are seeing, you got to stop seeing it as that separate person did this to me, or that separate person makes me feel good, or I'm hearing they love me. Oh, I'm hearing they don't love me. You've got to cut that out. You've got to get really clear what is happening out there is just informing me about what I wanted to experience. Do I want to continue to feel bad because somebody has rejected me, or feel bad because somebody fired me, or feel bad because my friend doesn't want to be my friend anymore, or feel bad because my child doesn't want to call me for Mother's Day, or whatever it might be? Do I want to continue to feel bad about the thing that I scripted to help me see that I need to change my mind about what I believe so that I can correct my neurological pathways, so that my body can then, instead of having the emotion of rejection, can begin to release that emotion, can begin to open up the suitcase and let go of the things that weigh me down. So we use every single experience to show you where we are, to show us where we are. Then we correct it. That's what a conscious being does. I see every irritation as an invitation for me to see my ego's motivation. When I see what am I believing in here, if I can shift it, that holy brother, holy son of God, holy sister is giving me a blessing. The blessing of helping me have a mirror for me to see how I show up in the world. And once I'm done with that mirror, you put it down. You don't need to use people to see who you are. You begin to just be who you are, and things come and go, and you are unaffected, because the attachments to the righteousness of the 3D world, the old way of living, drop when you change your mind. When you take that elevator down and you unplug, it's like you're cutting the cords to things that make you hurt. You're cutting the weights of the hot air balloon so that you can rise into higher levels of consciousness. This is really deep. This is really powerful. This is really, really profound. So I am going to share the next paragraph just because I want to leave you with a little more information here. And next week we will pick up at paragraph number 4. But paragraph number 3 says, thus were specifics made. So our mind made all kinds of specific things because our ears, our eyes were meant to take in information. We categorize it in our mind. Our brain creates the neurological pathways. And oh yeah, this kind of person hurts me, and this kind of person loves me, and this is what my life should look like. This is what I don't want. So the brain categorizes things, and we then create all of these specifics. And if we don't get what we think is right, we're going to suffer, because we're going to think, oh my gosh, I didn't get what I wanted. Not knowing that you're getting what you don't want to show you that that's what you scripted into your experience. Can you learn from it and change your own mind, change the script? You're the director of your life. So many steps that go into this journey. So now it is specifics we must use in practicing. We give them to the Holy Spirit that we may employ them for a purpose which is different from the one that we gave them. See, as a soul, we gave everybody a purpose. You're going to come in and you're going to be my first husband. You're going to be my second partner. You're going to be my third partner. And we're going to go in this order. And if I learn my lessons early on, I won't need you. But if I don't learn my lessons, you're going to play that role. And so we scripted all of this stuff. And that's why this is saying we give everybody a specific purpose. Now we are changing on that bridge to move out of the old and move to the new. We are giving everything that we have a new purpose, but we're going to work with the Holy Spirit. Yet he can use but what we made to teach us from a different point of view, so we can see a different use in everything. So many people, and this happened for many, and it was beautiful and wonderful. They wanted to go to an ashram. They wanted to go to a mountain in India. They wanted to go to Tibet. They wanted to go to the Himalayas. They wanted to get away from the world to have their transcendent experiences. That is all well and good. And many can go up to the mountain and get away from life and connect with God. But that's not what we're meant to do ultimately. We're meant to come off of the mountain and come into the world. We're meant to use everything as a mirror to help us see how are we showing up. You see, when Jesus scripted into his life experience that he was going to be crucified, he scripted one of the last people in his story was the one who put the nails in his hand. And he showed us what his consciousness had been shifted to. And he said to that one, forgive me. Or I'm sorry, let me restate that. I forgive you, for you know not what you do. Jesus's consciousness had achieved a level of godliness, love, that had transcended the world's anger, had transcended the need for righteousness. How dare you be hammering the Son of God? He saw the Son of God, holy Son of God, holy child of God, and said, give me your blessing. And the blessing that Jesus gave himself came through the process of forgiveness. Jesus forgave that one because he knew the human ego, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know that they scripted this. But I'm going to forgive what my head would want to say about it, my ego would want to say. And I'm just going to love you, brother, for playing the role that you're playing so that the world can see that I'm not a body, I am free. So Jesus transcends his body while on the cross for all of us to see and get an example to don't be so attached to the body. But 2,000 years later, we're still attached to the body, probably more than ever. I mean, look at what we're trying to do today. Oh my God, we got to make the body younger. We got to make the body, stay looking like it's 12 years old when, we're 50, 60, whatever we are. Filling the body, pumping it up with all kinds of chemicals, all kinds of things, injecting it with these jabs. So people really believe that the body is what keeps things running, but it is not. And we're going to get into that next week because we need to understand the role that the mind plays in making the body do what the body does. That is why we have to understand the mind. Then we enter into the body. We enter into the chakras to open up those places where we have stored energy and begin to release that anger that allows us to receive the blessing that the characters in our movie are here to help us see. And when we understand that that is the way the game is played, that's when the miracles begin to happen, because a miracle is a shift in perception from seeing it with my head and my ego to seeing things through my heart, because I had the courage and the integrity, the honesty to acknowledge that what gets activated in me, that irritation, is always an invitation that was scripted into my life's journey by who? Moi. I did this to me. And until we recognize that that is what all of the characters in our movie are for, until we get, what am I learning from this one? What am I learning from that one? What, and be willing to ask questions and be comfortable hearing the answers. And in some cases, depending on where we are in the journey, there was an exercise, very powerful exercise that I did long time ago. I typically do this with newer students, people who are more curious, but send them out with people that they live with, that they love, people that they are maybe had a falling out with, and say, can you share 3 qualities that you like about me and 3 qualities that you don't? And it's not, if your mind is still immature in the journey and you don't believe that you're the creator of your own reality, when you hear the good stuff, you're going to say, yeah, of course, those are good stuff. But when you get the things that they don't like about you, or that they think you could improve upon, maybe it's not that they don't like them, but they're like, annoyances. They may not divorce you for it or fire you for it, but it's like, oh my goodness, I wish they didn't always do this. If you can hear those things without having a reaction, but you receive it as information, you can literally begin to change patterns and behaviors that allow you to expand. And what may be an annoyance to somebody doesn't mean to you that it's a stretch, that if you stop doing that, it's a stretch. But if you feel, oh, wow, I've heard that from other people before. Let me take this and finally do something about that, change this habit, change this behavior. You would really be able to expand yourself out of the way the ego has you operate. And there's nothing wrong with somebody giving you their opinions. You can take it or leave it. If you are comfortable receiving without reaction, then you're in a really good place. But chances are earlier on in our journey, that exercise, 3 things you like about me, 3 things that I could improve upon. You don't say 3 things that you hate about me, because you're now planting a seed in the other person, but 3 things that you think I could improve upon. If they have a reaction to the question, they're going to give you the list, and they may even add more to the list so that you can change yourself. But most people are really good about taking that and saying, let me, okay, I'll be honest and share that with you. Next week, we're going to see the importance of recognizing that the mind is what creates our reality, so that we move focus off of the body, this attachment that we have to our body, how it looks. I have some of that too. I put on makeup before I come on here. I want to look a certain way. Why not? It's appealing, but I no longer need to do that to be liked by anybody, or to have somebody say, oh my gosh, look, she looks, she doesn't look her age. I do it because I enjoy it. It's fun. In this lifetime, I came as a woman who enjoys to put on makeup, and it's just the role that I'm playing because I'm not this body. So why not play with it? When you're free, and then you're in the world, but not of it. But while you're in bondage and irritated by other people's opinions, then there's opportunities to look at where you don't understand how powerful you are. And that's the essence of the Course in Miracles teachings, is to help us remember the truth of who we are. But to see the truth of who we are, we must first look at what is not true that we are believing that causes our suffering. So that is today's lesson 161. Give me your blessing, Holy Son of God. So thank you for blessing me, holy sons and daughters of God, by being present to receive these things that come through me, that I take notes to self, and I'm going to unpack for myself later on. So please unmute yourselves and share with me any nuggets that you received, and I will put this video inside of our inside of the Patreon chat. But please, when you get these links in the Patreon, don't send those out from Patreon. Let people, if they want to hear it, if you really enjoyed it and you think that you got value, please invite them into Patreon. It's only $9 a month. And I'm so grateful that you guys signed up at whatever level you signed up. I'm going to now make this more active. So the different levels, I'm going to do different things there. So wherever you are, it doesn't matter. You're going to receive at least this and then more. But invite people to join Patreon. Don't share the link and give it to them so that they can watch this without being a member. I want to save this exclusively for you who are supporting me as my patrons in Patreon. All right, Krista, you want to share something?
Well, there's so much to share, really. It's a lot of information, wonderful, accurate for me, in terms of not being attached to the things that trigger you. And it's definitely knowing that I'm a spiritual being is half the battle won. I can't always avoid not being reactive to some things, especially if I'm connected to things in my business. Someone does things, and I just got a call before this meeting, that someone who was responsible didn't make payments, and there's a penalty charged to the company. Now I have to decide to calm myself in response, rather be responsive as opposed to be reactive, because it was a job not to cause the penalty. So there's, it happens in so many levels, so many angles. So it's great to be, my starting point is I'm a spiritual being. And how do I play the game with any circumstance? And it's great to always just remind myself that when anything happens, Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, that's what this is all about, is helping to remind each other of how to deal with what's happening in a totally different way, which is the way of liberation. It's not the way that we've been taught. We've been conditioned through the way of condemnation. And it's totally different, very, very different. So thank you for sharing what you received from today's conversation. All right. Anybody else want to share? Just unmute yourself.
Yeah, Laina, I always get so much, and just the realization of not basing things on an outcome, but just going and knowing that you're working towards whatever blessings that God's going to give to you is very freeing, and I love it. And so I just wanted to let you know that, and thank you so very much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for joining the Patreon group, and I know that some other people are going to already said that they were going to join, and they probably, when they realize that, yeah, this was really starting today, and they're going to be looking for this video and they won't be able to find it. They'll probably go, oh, shoot, I better join in. But then they'll be able to watch it after they join, because everything is going to remain forever accessible inside of that Patreon channel. So come to the channel to find all the recordings. Now, all the previous ones, and it was 60, it just worked out that I ended at 60. So I will label this one 61. So you'll be able to see them. So 60 previous is the ones that are still going to be available. Well, actually, yeah, they'll be available on Patreon, but they are going to show up as not available, the new ones, for anybody else outside of Patreon. So thank you for being here. And what about you, Miss Cat? Since it's only the three of us, let's take a little time and see what nuggets did you get from today. And thank you for joining.
Oh, you're welcome. I was trying to unmute myself, but I did it. It was pretty easy. As always, I pick up nuggets of, it's a strengthening. It's a frequency I want to be on of this, and you're so masterful at it that it just, I don't think I've ever been on one of these calls that I didn't get some really, let's just say, very heart opening experiences. So I thank you. I thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. That is so beautiful. Well, it's, you say I'm masterful. I just allow myself to let the master use me, and I allow it to happen full on. So the masterfulness that you experience happens because we are coming together. Two or more are gathering, there is love, and God gets to use me. So that's why I can't stop doing these things.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness for us.
I know. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's, yeah, I signed up for, the path of working hard to make it happen. And now it's effortless, because I gave my life to God and let it do what it wills with me and through me. And it just doesn't get any better than this. So thank you for being here. So next week, obviously our group chat will be very small because it'll just be us and then whoever else joins. And but always come to the Patreon channel. You'll always find the link there. So if you're going to do it through phone or computer, enter Patreon and you'll get the link, but I'll also email it to you as long as I've got people's phone numbers. And of course I have yours, but any other people that might join, if I don't have their phone numbers, it'll always be here inside of Patreon. Or if I choose to move us to that other platform, again, I'll make that decision pretty quickly. It'll be seamless. It'll be easy. I'll help everybody transfer. Well, I love you all. Have a magnificent rest of your day, and I will see you next week on Wednesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, Laina.
Of course, sweetie. Share this with other people that you might know that are
I
not
will.
here, and let them know what they missed.
Won't we see you on Monday?
Oh yeah, well, I'll see. That's a separate class. Yes, but for
It is?
the Patreon, I'll see you on Wednesday.
Oh, I didn't realize that. We'll still be on this other Zoom thing call for
So
Monday.
Monday night, that's a totally separate class. That's not,
Oh,
this is the Wednesday Course in Miracles, Ascension with a Course in Miracles that we've been doing. So these are two totally set. You're in a Monday night group with a Course of Love. This is strictly a Course in Miracles.
oh, okay. I did not get that. I totally thought everything was going to be going through Pantheon. So that's good to know.
No. Just, this is strictly the Wednesday and other things that I'm going to be doing exclusively through Patreon.
Okay.
Our Monday group is a class that is totally separate. That stays the same.
Oh, I didn't see. I thought if I didn't, anyway, it's okay. I did misunderstand. I thought I had to join Patreon to get Monday also and all that.
No. This is only Wednesday. Only
Oh,
Wednesday
okay.
Course in Miracles.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for clarity.
Of course.
Okay.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. Love
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.